Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Podcast Accelerator, the thrice-weekly show that brings you podcast education, industry insights, and straight-talking reactions to podcasting news. I'm your host, Mark Asquith, that British podcast guy and CEO and co-founder here at Rebel Base Media, the podcast tech company that creates the Podcast Success Academy, podcast websites, Productivity, Rebel Base Studios, and Captivate.fm, the world's only growth-oriented podcast host, where you can get your first month of podcast hosting for just $1 and transfer an existing podcast in completely for free. So go ahead and check that out now at Captivate.fm. Now, today I'm going to talk about what is a good podcast download number. It may be the single biggest question that we all hear in podcasting. I've spoken to a lot of the other hosting companies out there. I'm friends with many of the other hosting companies, if not all of them, and we all hear the same thing. So I'm going to dig into that in just one moment. But before I do that, just a quick reminder that the team at AWeber are still working with me to engage listeners like you, to help you to discover more of my content, to help you to listen to this very, very episode, and of course to help you to become a paying customer of something that Rebel Base Media provides. And that ultimately is the goal for many independent creators. It's to help you to become a paying customer, because ultimately, you know, we're all here to make a living. That's why you do what you do. It's why we do what we do. And AWeber helps us to do that by building relationships with people. Now, as an email marketing provider, they're the best in the business. They've been leading the industry for over 20 years and have helped over 100,000 companies to engage with their audience. So please, if you're not able to say that you are engaging with your audience, AWeber can help you. So please go and check it out for 90 days completely free at markasquith.com/AWeber. All right, so let's dig into this. Podcast download growth is the single biggest challenge facing podcasters. But with so many podcasters at so many different levels, how the heck do you even know what a quote-unquote good number is? Well, it's an interesting question. And according to my friend Rob Walsh, who is a real industry pioneer, he's been in the industry for such a long time, and he's a real data guy, much like our very own Kieran McKeefer is. And Rob has got a lot of data at his fingertips working for Libsyn and you know, has spent a lot of time looking at podcast data. And according to Rob, over the last couple of years, the average podcast gets, on average, 138-ish downloads per episode within, I think he said, within 2 or 3 weeks of release. Now, that's a pretty good indication of quote-unquote subscribers. I actually think it's a little bit lengthy, but that is kind of the standard, even though, honestly, the IAB, Internet Advertising Bureau, have not yet standardized how long that should take. So what I'm saying there is the IAB have not decided, actually, what is that standard? Okay, what is the download standard that we should be reporting to sponsors? But most sponsors will say, okay, I want the total number of downloads each episode gets in the range between 2 and 4 weeks from release. It's a bit baffling, and my great friend Evo Terra mentioned this on one of his shows, and I totally agree with him. It's baffling that the IAB haven't standardized that yet. I'm sure that they will do in the future, but they just haven't done yet. So we're all kind of guessing. So when it comes to your podcast, you know, if you look at someone like Wondery, who's producing Inside Star Wars and Business Wars and everything that goes alongside their high production value, you know, they're looking at hundreds of thousands of downloads per episode. And then you've got the hobby shows like my show, Spark of Rebellion. You know, might get 100 downloads. It's not a huge show. It's a brand new Star Wars hobby podcast that we just do because we love it. 100 downloads an episode? Yeah, that's about right. We don't really market it. We've not told anyone. We do for the love of it. So how can you possibly compare the two? And this is the problem with that question. This is the problem with what is a good podcast download number. Honestly, it sounds like a dodge. It sounds like one of those vague answers. A good podcast download number, so where the podcast episode is being downloaded between 2 to 4 weeks out from release, a good number is one that is consistently going up. One that is consistently going up. And I know you're looking for a straight number. Okay, you need 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000. It isn't that clear. It isn't that clear, because if you're a niche podcast, let's say that you're just like my good friend Joe, you run the UK's best and brightest and biggest knitting podcast. I don't know how many listeners Joe gets. Let's assume she gets 500 per episode. Would she want 10,000? Probably. Would she want 10,000 if 10,000 people that were listening weren't her target audience? Probably not. Joe would much rather have 500 people that were going to take action and that were exactly the type of people that she wanted. More so, the old Kevin Kelly theory, 1,000 true fans. It's not called 1,000 downloads or 1,000 unique hits. It's called 1,000 true fans. Okay? So, it doesn't matter what that number is, as long as it's trending in the right direction, as long as it's moving up, and that is the key. Now, we work on that very heavily at Captivate, which is the world's only growth-oriented podcast host. It's podcast hosting, analytics, and marketing tools. And it's something that we believe very firmly in, helping you to keep that trend moving upwards, okay? You need marketing, you need strategy, you need just consistent marketing tactics, and that's the thing that people don't do in podcasting, all right? So, ask yourself, is my episode download number, so the number of downloads each episode gets between 2 to 4 weeks out from release, is that number trending upwards every single episode? Sure, you're going to get the odd blip. Sure, you're going to release content that doesn't resonate as much with people. Sure, you're going to get peaks when you do create something that resonates. But is it generally trending in the right direction? If it isn't, that's a problem. All right? That's what you need to focus on. So don't look over the fence. Don't compare yourself to what the Joneses are doing over the fence, all right? You need to be looking at your own stats. And all you need to do is be measuring yourself against the last episode, all right? It's a truthful answer, and it's one that I truly believe in. Because if you look after that, you might end up at 10,000 downloads per episode because you keep adding 100 at a time or 50 at a time or 1,000 at a time, all right? It's like the old kind of mantra, look after the pennies and the pounds take care of themselves. Look after one download at a time. Get one download more than yesterday. And suddenly, things start to happen. All right? So please consider that. Don't worry what everyone else are doing. And thank you so much for joining me here on the Podcast Accelerator. I'm loving doing this show. Thank you for all the feedback that you're giving me. Thank you for all the support that you're giving me. My numbers are going up because you guys are enjoying the content. So I really, really appreciate that. And if you do enjoy the show, please remember to tell your podcasting friends that the show is available to listen to for free in any app that supports podcasts. And if you're wondering what the best next step to take for your own podcast is, whether you're a new or a veteran podcaster, please go ahead and take our short 5-minute quiz where I'm going to help you to diagnose and solve the main issue holding your show and your podcast growth back. And I'm going to give you access not only to the solution to that, but also to our free and vibrant Podcast Rebellion community, some weekly free group coaching from me and the team, and actionable and insider-only emails, plus a free invitation to the Podcast Success Academy. So go ahead and invest 5 minutes now to grow your podcast by heading to rebelbasemedia.io/grow. And until the next time, please do not forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.